She saw him coming toward us, and he said to her, "The woman with you, bring her to me." And she leaned down to me and she said, "I think we've got a situation." And I thought, yes, this is not a good situation to be in when you're an American in a foreign country right now. And he said, he goes, "Tonight you're going to die, Miss America." And he said, "I get extra points with Allah when I kill you." He said, "I'm going to take your heads."
Join me as Charlynne Boddie takes us on a journey of faith, courage, and divine miracles. From a near beheading, yes, Charlynne was almost beheaded, to Hollywood and beyond, Charlynne lives a life without limits. This is a great conversation about unlimited adventure, accompanied by unlimited trust. Charlynne, welcome to Bump in the Road. If you would, tell us your story.
Well, I am happy to be here, Pat. Thank you for having me. So, boy, I've had so many different bumps in the road in my life that have helped me become the person I am today. So, boy, when I think about various bumps, some of them were very physical. When I moved to the United Kingdom 18 years ago, to put my base there for everything I do as a minister, life coach, speaker, model, there were many different cultures to deal with. And on one of the occasions that I was teaching in the southeast part of the United Kingdom, our car broke down. And my assistant said, "Let me call a tow truck and see when they can get us." And there was a 2-hour window, Pat, where they could not be with us because they were so busy that night. And so there we were in the middle of nowhere. To our left, there was a giant castle ruin. And if we had screamed and we're in trouble, no one would have heard us. I mean, it really was the middle of nowhere. And it was coming up on midnight, and the tow truck wouldn't be there till 2 a.m.
Ooh.
So we were in trouble. And a gentleman came up to us, and I could tell he was Arabic. And he overheard my assistant talking to me and saying that the tow truck would be 2 hours late. And he said to my assistant, who, this is important to hear the racial backgrounds here so you understand what was happening and why it was a bump in the road, literally. She's a white British person from County Kent, really close to the area where we were. And she's a retired nurse. And she saw him coming toward us, and he said to her, "The woman with you, bring her to me." And she leaned down to me and she said, "I think we've got a situation." And I thought, yes, this is not a good situation to be in when you're an American in a foreign country right now. And he said, he goes, "Tonight you're going to die, Miss America." And he said, "I get extra points with Allah when I kill you." He said, "I'm going to take your heads." And
Oh
I
my
thought, oh
God.
boy, I thought we are in trouble.
You think?
Yeah, we are definitely in trouble. And I said a little prayer, and I heard God say to me, "Be very careful because he is very serious. And you will lose your head, and you need to do exactly as I tell you." And he was so excited. He's like, "Wow." He goes, "You're an American infidel." And he said, "And boy, I can't wait to get my reward." And I said, "Well, you know what?" I said, "The one that you call Issy in the Quran is my boss." And I said, "So I think I got the better end of the stick." And he said, "What do you mean by that? You stupid infidel." He said, "I just said I'm going to kill you." I said, "Yes, I know that." And I said, "And you can go ahead and do that." I said, I still think I get the better end of the stick. I said, because I work for Jesus. And he thought about that for a second. He's like, well, I said, well, correct me if I'm wrong. I said, but when you kill me, is your reward still just sex with 72 virgins? And he looked at me and he said, well, yes. And how do you know this? I said, well, I said, I've read the Quran and I know there's no word for love in the Quran. And I said, my scriptures say that God is love. So I wasn't yelling at him. I wasn't screaming. I wasn't crying. My assistant was praying silently next to me. But she said she just knew we were going to die that night. And he has his sword out and he's, just huffing and puffing, saying that, you're going to die. And he was taking on board what I was saying, but he still wanted to kill us. And he goes, well, why are you not afraid? And I said, well, because I will go directly to eternity with Jesus. And I kept saying the name of Jesus because it saved my life so many times. And I said, I will rule and reign with him as a believer and a follower of Jesus. And I said, so you go ahead and do what you want to do. I think I get the better end of the stick. And it just shook his world. He could not believe the calm I had. He could not believe the peace. He could not believe that I had not called him a name. And he said, do you know who I am? I said, sir, I have no idea who you are. He said, but do you know what country I represent? I said, I'm thinking that you're of Arabic descent, but I do not know which nation. I cannot tell you that. He said, I am Syrian. And he said, all Syrians hate Americans. He said, you are the big Satan. And I was like, oh my goodness. I said, yep, well, that's what he believes. And that's, what he's telling us. And he said, well, you're not crumbling. You're not afraid. And I said, no. I said, I fear no man. I said, the only person I fear is Jesus Christ. And I said, and when I say that, I mean, I have reverence and awe for him. And he says, how can you say that? I said, I'm an ordained minister. And he looked me up and down. He goes, but you're a woman. I said, that's right. I said, my God loves women and men. And I said, so my being a woman and working for God it means, that is not a discrepancy to the Lord. And he said, but what are you doing here? I said, what, in this country or in this county? He said, both. I said, well, it's the call of God on my life, and I'm helping people in a nearby town. He says, well, what are you doing in this area? You don't live here? I said, no, I live 3 hours away. He said, well, what are you doing here? I said, I'm teaching people in a local church. And then he stopped for 5 minutes, and my assistant looked at me like, is this the moment when we die? Is he going to cut our heads off now? And he said, I've got a question for you. He said, you American infidel. He kept saying that. And I said, yes. And he said, do you teach in the original Greek and Hebrew? I said, often I do, all the time. I said, a good Bible scholar should do that. I said, so I use Greek and Hebrew all the time. And then he stopped, and my assistant looked at me again like, what is he doing? What is going on? And then he said, will you teach me? And I thought, wait a minute. I said, sir, I said, do you realize I need my head in order to teach you? So for the last 20 minutes, you've told us that you're going to take our heads. Now you're asking me to teach you. I need my head. And she needs hers because she's my assistant. And I said, in order for me to teach you, sir, I need you to put the scimitar down, which is the Arabic sword that they used to behead.
Oh, man.
I said, I need you to put the sword down now in the name of Jesus. I said, please put it down. And he put it down. And I said, I'd like to introduce you to my boss, Jesus Christ. Can I pray with you? And he shook his head, yes. And in that moment, everything changed.
Oh, my God.
And he decided to become a follower of Jesus Christ. And he asked me to teach him what I knew about the Bible, Old and New Testament. And a year later, on the anniversary of that night, Pat, he came up to me and he called me and he said, "Hey, I'd like to meet with you and Leslie, my assistant." He said, "Do you know what today is?" And I didn't know what he was going to say. He said, "It's the day that I met Jesus, and it's the anniversary of the night I was going to kill you." And I said, "Oh yes, I'll never forget that night." and he said, "Can we get together? And I'd like to have a meal with you." And he said, "But know this, Charlynne." I said, "What, my brother?" Because now he was my brother. He went from my would-be killer to my brother. I said, "Yes, brother." He said, "I was going to kill you and Leslie that night. I was going to kill you." I said, "I have no doubt about it." He said, "But Jesus showed up." I said, "Yes, he did. Yes, he did."
Whoa, what a story. Now, is that story in your new book?
It is, Pat. It
What,
is.
all right, tell us some more stories because I know this new book is focused on a path less taken and
Yes.
on adventure.
Yes. Yeah. And it's separated, Pat, into 7 divisions by country. So I start taking the reader with me on adventures from America all the way to Israel. So you'll see what my adventures were like in Italy. You'll see what the adventures were like in Greece. You'll see what the adventures were like in Germany, in Scotland, in England, all over the world.
Oh, let's start with Italy. It's one of my favorite places.
Okay. Mine too. Mine too. I always have the most amazing adventures in Italy. I love it. Just so many wonderful people there. And I totally understand why George Clooney wanted to leave America and go to Italy. I get it. The people are very happy, they're very joyful. And so I've been from the top of Italy all the way to the bottom, the Amalfi Coast area, which I love. And I've had situations where I've walked the streets in the footsteps of Gregory Peck and Audrey Hepburn, because of course, as a little girl, I had to see Roman Holiday. I'm a huge film fan, and I used to have my own TV show about film in Hollywood. So how can you go to Rome and not trace the footsteps of Audrey and Gregory from Roman Holiday? So I'm up by the Papal City, and then I go off to a side street, and I see a cafe that's open, and it's open from the floor to the ceiling with the sliding doors. So the entire cafe was open to the street, and there was a ghetto box there, or a boom box there, and they were playing Bruce Springsteen, "Born in the USA." And I'm just walking down the street talking to people, saying hello, and they heard my accent, the Italian guys. And they said, "Bella Americana, Bella Americana, come, come." And so I walk over to them. I said, "Hello, hello." I said, "Ciao, what's happening?" And they crank up Bruce Springsteen and they start dancing with me in the cafe. And I'm with my friend who was traveling all throughout Europe with me at that time. And I decided for that trip, in honor of that trip, instead of calling her Cynthia, to call her Cinzia, which is the Italian version of Cynthia. So I said, "Cinzia, Cinzia, come here, come here." And they go, "Oh, Cinzia, Bella Americana." And they cranked that boom box up with Bruce Springsteen yelling out the tune "Born in the USA." And we're dancing down the street and twirling in our dresses to the music. And all the guys are saying, "Bravo, bravo, Bella, Bella, Bella," the whole time. And people are looking at us thinking, what are these crazy Americans doing? And everybody's laughing and we're just having a wonderful time. And that is, to me, that is just a little snippet of what it's like in Rome. When you are that kind of person that will go in a whimsical way through a foreign country, and where no one is a stranger to me, they always call out. And I say to people all the time, pick up as much of a language as you can,
Hmm.
And they go, well, what do you do in Italy? They said, are you fluent in Italian? I said, no, but I know the two words that are most important. And they just laugh. They go, what is that? And I'm like, piccolo scanto. And they go, what? What the heck is that, Char? And I say, little discount, please. That's all any American girl needs to know. Just piccolo sconto. I need a little discount, please. That's it. Piccolo, little, sconto, discount. And anytime I say that in an Italian market, whether I'm in Florence or Amalfi, guess what? You get the most amazing discount and you get a new friend because you're speaking their language. So every time I've done that, I've come home with the most beautiful things that are handmade in the area, whether it's the wonderfully famous Venetian lace or the textiles of the market in Florence, because they're bringing me out this amazing stuff they have. And I always say to them, yes, I want the discount, but I'm going to buy more things in volume, and they love it. It's a win-win for everyone.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
Okay, let's move on to Greece. I love Greece as well. I'm half Greek, so Greece for me has a special draw, and I spent a lot of summers there as a kid.
Wow. Well, I love Greece. I have a Greek uncle. His name is Tony Mandrinos. He is the best um, history teacher in my life. He says I was his best student, and he had 7 children. And he said I was his 8th child. And he said to me when I was a little girl, he said, he would say, Charlynne, when you are a woman, you need to leave America and see the world. And you need to start with Greece. He says, you must come see me. So he was married to an American, and she had a master's in library science. And the American University in Athens hired her. So Tony and his wife got to go back to Greece. So when he got there, he's such a scholar. He decided, as many Greeks are, he decided that he wanted a bookstore. And he called his other daughter, me, and he said, Charlynne, you must come to Greece this summer. So this is the summer of 1999. And he says, you must come and help me open this bookstore. And I said, Uncle Tony, my Greek, I don't know. I need to brush up my Greek. He says, you will. You will.
Little discount, right?
Yeah, that's right. Come on now. You're going to come to Greece and you're going to do this. And I said, well, I'm not sure I have the money for the ticket right now. And he says, but if you did have it, what would happen? Well, 2 women walked up to me and they said, Charlynne, we felt led of God to pay 50% of us, each of us, on your next adventure. I said, you're kidding. I said, even if it's a Greek adventure, I want to do a Greek Odyssey. They said, we'll pay for it. We'll pay for it. So they did. And I got to go to Greece for that summer, and I had the time of my life. You talk about adventures, and I wrote about it in the book. So I took that Greek journal, and then I took out my favorite stories out of the Greek journal and put that in this new book. So you get to find out about all the different historical things that Tony knew I would like. He said, my teenagers are at a concert at Lakavitos. Now, it's like the Red Rocks of Denver, which is an iconic amphitheater in Denver that all the big rock and roll stars have played at. But Lakavitos is that version of an outdoor amphitheater in Athens. And he said, do you want to go to the rock concert? Or would you like to go on a tour with Uncle Tony? I said, of course, Uncle Tony, you, are you kidding? I just got here. So he gave me my own apartment. Because, of course, I'm the oldest of his kids. And he gives me my own apartment in Athens. So he drops off my stuff and he takes me on this excursion. And he started recounting to me the story of the Spartans, which Hollywood has made the movie 300 with Gerard Butler. And he starts telling me the story. And he says, do you know where we're standing right now? And I said, no, Uncle Tony. And we're looking out over Athens at night. And he's got me up on a hill. He said, this is historically where the throne of the Persian king was as he overlooked the battle between the Greeks and the Persians.
Oh, wow.
I said, oh my goodness, you're kidding me. And I had goosebumps. He said he wanted to see it played out like a show in front of him. And he said, and you remember, Charlynne, what did the Spartans do? I said, they fought to unite Greece because at that time, Uncle Tony, all of the parts of Greece were city states. He goes, that's correct. It was not united yet. He goes, well done, well done, well done, Char. He said, we are standing where the Persian king placed his throne to watch that fight. And see, at the time, Hollywood wasn't thinking about that movie yet. They had, they had not done the movie to the degree that they've done it now. And I mean, they show you what it was like, how amazingly hard it was to unite all those different parts of Greece at the time. Soon after that, of course, Greece became united. They knew that they were stronger, although those city-states coming together, than they were separate, because the armies of the Middle East were huge and they wanted to come and take over. And Greece said no. So that was the beginning. That was my first night with him. And what happened after that was so many different cultures of people having like dreams about me and then meeting me in different places. And I would walk down the street and somebody would walk up to me and say, oh my gosh, I saw you in my dream. And are you a minister? And I say, yes. And all these other adventures would take off. It was crazy. And then I ended up befriending the American university president there in Athens. And he was astounded to find out that I was gone for 5 days and that Uncle Tony didn't know where I was. And that is an adventure I write about in my book that all my students want me to tell again and again, because it is a crazy story of Char being put on a train on a day off from the bookstore with Uncle Tony. I've been doing inventory for him. And he says, Charlynne, he goes, you have worked so hard. Take the day off. And I said, well, day off, Uncle Tony. He goes, no, there's some things I need to take care of. He says, you take the day off. I've shown you how to use, the light rail system and all these things. So just take the day off. So I woke up that day. And as I always do, I said a little prayer. I said, Lord, where shall we go? And I believe God is a God of adventure. And he said, hop on the train. And I said, okay, but where are we going? He said, you'll find out when we get there. And I thought, oh my gosh, I have no idea where I'm going. So I'm trusting the little bit of Greek that I've got in my head. I get on the train and we're going north, away from Athens. And that's all I knew. And I kept saying, is this the stop, Lord? Is this the stop? He'd say, no, 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 no. And then all of a sudden he says, get ready. This next stop is the stop. And I thought, I have no idea where I am. He said, when you get off, there'll be a red car. And I thought, wait a minute, this is so crazy. So I get off and there is a red car. And I said, now what, God? And he says, go up to the man in the car. I went up to the man in the car and he turned around and he looked at me. He said, are you the American? I said, oh my gosh. I said, yes. And I've never seen him in my life, Pat. I don't even know where I am. He says, get in. And I thought, either I'm crazy or this is an axe murder. Oh my gosh. I get in the car. I thought I'd never tell my mom about this. I get in the car. We go zooming farther north still, somewhere in Greece. And he stops in front of this house and the door opens and this big chested, joyous Greek woman comes out and she goes, come on, come on, come on, you're late. And I was like, what, late for what? I don't even know where I am. And she goes, we've been waiting for you. She had a dream about me, Pat, 3 weeks before, much like the man in Macedonia in the Bible who dreamt of Paul and told Paul to come to Macedonia in the Bible, the Apostle Paul, to preach. It was just like that. I tell you what. I said, what do you mean you had a dream about me? She said, I saw you in my dream 3 weeks ago. And God told me that an American was coming to teach us about Jesus. She had the whole village in her back garden waiting for me. And I was like, you are kidding. She sent the guy with the car to wait at the train by faith, Pat.
And she had the exact day and everything, too.
Yes, she woke up that day and she said God told her I was coming. She found some young man in the village with a red car and told him to go wait at the train. And he did it. Out comes this Black American chick who's never been there. And then he says, "Are you the American?" And she told him, "I saw a Black woman from America in my dream. And when she comes to the car, throw her in and bring her to my house." Did it. And I get there and I'm thinking, all I have is my British Airways toothbrush. I do not have anything but my purse on me and a British Airways toothbrush. That's it. Do you know that adventure in her village lasted 5 days?
Oh, I
No
bet
one
that
in
was
Athens knew where I
fascinating.
was. No one knew where I was. I prayed for the sick and they would get healed. Many people wanted to become followers of Jesus. They wanted to become Christians. I prayed with them and I stayed with her. And I said, "Kathy," and her name was Kathy. And I said, "Kathy, I don't have any nightshirt or underwear, anything." She goes, "Come on, come on. We're in the same body of Christ. We share things. Oh, come on. Like, who are you, lady? We're in the family of God. You don't need to worry about your underwear and sleep gown." And she just looked at me like I was crazy. And so I shared what she had. I ate her food. I went wherever we helped people. We prayed for the sick and we saw them get healed. It was just like the book of Acts in the Bible. And I kid you not, I wrote it all down. And I said to her on the 5th day, I said, "Kathy," she goes, "What?" And I said, "I think my Uncle Tony might be worried where I am." And I said, I need to, he gave me 1 day off, but not 5. And she goes, "Okay, okay, I'll call this Tony Mendrinos." So she calls him and they talk in Greek on the phone. And she says, "I will put you on the train today." He is concerned, but he said he knew that God had you on an adventure. And I said, "He said that?" She goes, "Yes. But in the meantime, the American University president is livid. He's like, you cannot let an American girl go traipsing around by herself." He went crazy. And so it was the Americans that came to pick me up and not my Uncle Tony, because they said, "Tony, we will be picking her up. This is just, we cannot let a single young American girl go all over Greece alone." And he goes, "But I knew that the Lord had her. I was not worried." And the American University president goes, "I believe in God too, Tony, and I'm going to go pick her up because I need to know she's okay." So, the president of the American University is going to come in to save the day. And he did that. So he came, and the good doctor that he was, he picked me up and he goes, "I know an adventure happened. What happened? I want to hear it before Tony hears it." And so I just stayed at his house for another 3 days. Oh my goodness, what the things that I shared with them. They said, "Shar, your life is like a continuation of the book of Acts." And I said, "Yes, it's looking like that now for sure." And that was just one of the stories of Greece, because there were so many people that had seen me, Pat, in a dream before they met me in Greece.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
You have such a great sense of adventure. Where do you think that comes from?
You know, I know my dad likes to travel the world, but I think as a little girl, I remember the nuns in my school giving me the free reign to read whatever I wanted. So I was in a gifted and talented program, and the nuns just let it rip. And my classes only had 15 students in it, so I got all this one-on-one care. And they said, "She's our little communicator." Mother Superior said, "She's the communicator. We're just going to let her have whatever she wants." And I remember reading profusely stories of other countries, Pat. And even before I met Uncle Tony, who became my other father and still is, he's still alive today. I talk to him all the time. I believe that I already had it in my heart that I would leave America, which I love very dearly. I'm a huge American fan and patriot. But having the influence of my Greek uncle tell me to leave America to see the world, to broaden my horizons, that he was the cherry on top. But I would have to say the nuns encouraging me to read about the world, anything I could get about other cultures, they just put it in front of me. They put it in front of me because at 5, I was reading so much. And the nuns were like, "Okay, she's just going to be one of our good students, and we're just going to let her have whatever she can handle." They just let me do it, all of it. They never stopped me.
I think reading is such a great adventure. I was the kid who would ride down to the library, get 6 books, come back home, with the books I'm at the back of my bike, read them all and return them before the due date. I mean, I
Yes.
think
You're like
reading,
me then.
oh my gosh, it is probably, I'd rather read to this day than watch most movies.
Yeah, you know what? Because it's an adventure in itself, isn't it? Every
Yeah,
time you
very
turn the
much.
page, it's an adventure, you
And it can be
know?
an adventure on so many levels, and it doesn't matter whether it's fiction or nonfiction. It's all fascinating, I think.
Yeah, it is. And I love the people of the world. I love traveling. I love learning new languages. And since I first met you, Pat, would you believe I've learned I now have a following of Russian women all over the globe, Russian speaking women that are all new friends. And that's the other language I speak is Russian. I had no idea that Russian women were watching me all over the world on my social media feeds. And one of those Russian speaking women is now asking me to do some television in Sweden and Norway right now. And it's just, I mean, just that little bit of language, it opens you to the world. And I remember my Greek uncle telling me this all the time and saying, Charlynne, you must reach the world. You must. He said, there's something in you with languages and the love for people you have. You must reach the world. And he said that to me over and over as a little girl. I first met him when I was 11, and he is still one of my closest male figures in my life. And I'm 2 years away from being 60, so I'll be 58 this year, and he is still alive and still a key player in my life.
So, are you going to Scandinavia on this new adventure?
Boy, I would love to, because I've got friends in Norway, friends in Sweden, and dear friends in Finland that really want me to come and do some adventures with them in Finland. I've got a lot of friends in Finland, and now a new Russian friend in Sweden who is a television producer and head of a network there. And she's been watching my I did a first Russian TV show about 4 weeks ago, and for a Russian television host who had been Muslim, who just became a Christian. So she had many questions for me about my adventures around the world and how faith plays a role in that. And she said, Charlynne, I know you're a woman of adventures. I want to hear about this. Why do you speak my language? Where did that come from? I said, well, my first house I bought is in a Russian neighborhood. She said, you're kidding. I said, no. And I said, all the Russians wanted me to teach them English. And I said, no. She said, you did? And I said, yeah. I said, here's the deal. I will teach you English, but you must teach me Russian. And they said, no, Rusky, no, Rusky, no, no. They wanted English only, American English. And I said, no, we are neighbors. You're going to teach me your language, and I will teach you mine. And I said, and that is why I started picking up Russian. She said, that's fantastic. I love it.
Well, one of the themes that comes out of my podcast is just say yes.
Yes.
I mean, yes
Yes.
opens the door to everything, and you
It
never know where
does.
it'll take you.
That's right, Pat. That's right. You never know. And I say that as well. I totally agree with that. Because people have always said no to me, all the crazy things I've wanted to do in my life, from creating a TV show out of nothing in Hollywood, which costs millions of dollars to do. I did it for $400. And they're like,
Well,
you're crazy. How does that happen? I said, it's called relationship. My entertainment lawyer said to me, um, you know, if real estate is all about location, 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 he said Hollywood is about relation, relation, relation.
what was that TV show about?
It was a film review show, and it was called Real Sisters, REEL. And it meant that we were doing film reviews. And so every A-lister you can think about right now has been on my show. And we had over 500 stars and directors on the show from 2002 to 2006. I even had the entire cast of Lord of the Rings on my show.
Is it available on Netflix or anywhere else?
No, because there was no YouTube back then, and there wasn't even an iPhone back then. So I have stills of the stars I can send you if you wanted to see some of that. Somebody asked me the other day, that wants me to be the face for their products, because I do a lot of brand ambassador stuff for people. They are saying to me, I want to see your Hollywood moments. So I said, who do you want to see? And they said, can you please send us the stills with you and Beyonce? I said, sure. So I did that. And then they said, and do you have anything with Cuba Gooding? He's really cute. And I said, I have. Cuba Gooding is my friend. I said, he was on my show many times. So I sent them that. They asked for Cuba and Beyonce, but there's so many different people. So, Bob Newhart just died like a couple weeks ago,
Oh,
and
did
he
he?
was on my show. Ed Asner never forgot my name. Anytime I was walking the streets of New York, he would yell out to me across Times Square, "Hey, Charlynne!" And I'd say, "Hey, Mr. Asner, how you doing?" And he'd say, "I'm well, I'm well." And I mean, people said, "You know Ed Asner?" I said, "He never forgot me. I had him on my show once, and he never forgot me." So he was a part of the cast for Elf with Will Ferrell, and I had Will Ferrell, the giant elf, on my show. I mean, James Caan, you name it, so many different people. Angelina Jolie's father, John Voight.
Mm-hmm.
And many times, what would happen to me, Pat, in Hollywood is the men of Hollywood would say, and this is highly unusual, they don't typically like media. They need to use media, but they don't always like the media people. They would invite me to lunch with them. So John Voight said to his publicist, he said, "Who is that girl from Real Sisters?" She goes, "Oh, she's new, sir. She's new in the junket system." And he'd say, "Call her publicist. I want her to spend the day with me." And that's a true story, and it actually happened.
What did you do after Real Sisters?
After Real Sisters is when I moved to the United Kingdom to really go full bore into the ministry that God's given me, to the world, really. I have a very apostolic call, much like Paul the Apostle in the Bible. It's global. But I'm also a life coach, and I'm also a plus model. So if you were to go to London right now, you would see the posters of me as the Workout Wednesday girl for Anytime Fitness. So I do modeling and all those kinds of things. I love that. But also became a military chaplain to NATO forces for America.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Did you have
so
a strong spiritual calling as a young girl?
yeah, I would say that, and it's really non-denominational. My mother told the nuns, who were very kind to me as educators, she said, "We're so grateful the way you're treating our children, and they're learning so much, sisters, but can we let the children decide which way they go spiritually?" And the nun said, "Sure, but she'd be a great Catholic." And my mother said, "I can appreciate that, Mother Superior, and we so love what you're doing with the girls, but let the girls decide what they want to be spiritually." And I decided that even though I was raised Church of England, which in America is called Episcopalian, and I went to Catholic schools, but I graduated from Denver Lutheran, which is why I speak German. I decided, you know what, Lord, how can I bring unity across all the denominations? Can I be the breach person? So where there's a breach or a hole or disunity, can I bring unity? So I work with everyone from leaders at the Vatican to Baptists in the Bible Belt and everything in between. So I've literally done sermons for every Christian denomination in the world, and even the Greek Orthodox priest, the number one Greek Orthodox priest. You'll love this, Pat, because of your Greek heritage. The number one Greek priest in the world is my personal friend. And the adventure with him and the orphanage he created in Greece is in that new book.
And the name of your book?
No Appointments Necessary.
How'd you come up with that as the title?
Um, there is a very amazing woman whose husband was a British war hero, and she became a trustee for me, and she's quite the adventurer herself. And she said, "Charlynne, you have many appointed times in your life, but you don't need an appointment to do the things designed for you." And that she said, "I think the new book ought to be called No Appointments Necessary." And I said, "Sally, I believe that's right." So it really came from her saying, you have appointed times in your life that have your name on them, but you did not need a set appointment to go walk through those doors. And I said, "You know what? You're right." I said, I kind of step into things. And she goes, that's what I'm saying. She said, your life is one where no appointment is necessary. I go, got it. Okay. So
If you had any advice for the younger you, what would you say?
what would I say? I would say be less concerned about what others think of you. Be more concerned about what the audience of one, who for me is God. Be more concerned about what Jesus thinks about you than others. I cared way too much about what others thought about me as a young girl. And thankfully, I think my Greek uncle helped kind of break that. He said, the only thing you need to be concerned about is Jesus. He said, you already know him. He said, but listen to that voice more, Charlynne, than the other people that are trying to be your dream stealer. And I learned about that at a young age. I thought, boy, I've got crazy ideas, and a lot of people are telling me I can't do them. They were the people of no in my life. And my Uncle Tony, my Greek uncle, who I dearly love, he was the one that said, you can do anything, Charlynne. He's anything. He said, listen to the voice of Jesus. He knows you. He loves you. He has the best for you. Always listen to Jesus, my Uncle Tony told me. And he still tells me that.